Hello, Tar Heel Nation. Welcome to another episode of UNC Hoops Talk podcast. I'm your host, Dan DeWitt, and it's been too long. A lot has happened since the last podcast, and I didn't really know what to do with myself without podcasting there, but it was a good break. It's great to be back, great to be talking Tar Heel basketball with you again, and I just want to thank you for listening, watching, however you're taking in the show, and appreciate all the support that you guys give, sharing it out, again, listening and sending in questions and suggestions and comments and all that stuff. I love it. I love talking Tar Heel basketball with you guys. And that's the goal of the podcast, unite Tar Heel basketball, or Tar Heel Nation. So let's jump right in. Like I said, a lot to do. I'm going to kind of go through the games that have been played a little bit quicker this time because there's more of them and they were longer ago, and it's time to look at ACC play. So before we even get into games, the NCAA has given us our third, hopefully final, NOA, or notice of allegations. Pretty much went back to what the first notice of allegations says, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if you're not following it. It's pretty, I don't know, in-depth, crazy, weird, one of a kind of thing, to where we get three of them and going back to the first one, and are they even doing what they're allowed to do or what their regulations, bylaws say? But yeah, North Carolina has kind of finally said they're going to fight it. They're not necessarily playing nice anymore, but they're going to fight it, and have stated that the NCAA is out of their jurisdiction, kind of thing. But that's there. We have, was it 90 days to respond to that, and then they have like 60 days to respond from that, or something like that. I don't know. It's still going to be a long process, unfortunately, but we did get our third and hopefully our final notice of allegations. We'll see. Of course, it's kind of when some commits are visiting and when they commit and all that stuff. So great timing, NCAA. You're superb as always. But yeah, a little bit better stuff to talk about than that is the games. A long time ago already now, back in December, back in 2016, last year already, we had the UNI game. Good win for the Tar Heels, I guess. We started off slow again. Whole first half pretty slow. In the second half, we kind of gradually pulled away. Got a solid win. I don't know. Kennedy Meeks led us with 18 points. We had four starters with double figures. Isaiah and Joel Berry had 11. Justin Jackson had 12. Kennedy Meeks also led us with 8 rebounds. Kenny Williams had 5 assists. Nate Britt had 4 steals. Tony Bradley continued to be productive off the bench, 8 points, 5 rebounds. Brandon Robinson gave us 6 points. Luke May gave us 7 points in some good minutes. But yeah, we win 85-42. I think they said it was the lowest that Roy has held a team, 42 points. So obviously that's good that our defense looked good there. I will preface the rest. I don't think something has happened to our defense, and we'll talk about this as we get into some of the other games. But to me, our offense, our efficiency starts on the defensive end, because obviously North Carolina likes to get out in transition. We like to get easy buckets, all that, and it starts with defense. And our defense, I don't know, something. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to fix it. I'm not a Hall of Fame coach. Hopefully Roy can figure it out. But to me, something's wrong with our defense. Rotations aren't there. Guys are just letting guys go right by them for layups, and then, yeah, like I said, our help isn't there, or we help and then the rotation's not there. And I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what's up, but something is not right with our defense. Other things I wrote down as far as noting out of the UNI game. This is the game where Seventh Woods had a dunk towards the end of the game, well, a steal and a dunk, and then the other team was kind of dribbling. UNI was just dribbling the clock out, and Seventh Woods stole it and dunked again. I don't know. We didn't really hear anything about it, but I can't imagine Roy was too happy about that. This is also the same time that Theo was cleared for basketball activities. And Roy said he was doing a few basketball things, non-contact and all that, but also working to get back into shape. And there was no date. There still is no date set for his return. Again, we'll talk about that in a little bit here after we get through the games. But then on the 28th, we played Monmouth, and The biscuit drought watch is now over. We finally broke through, got 100 in a home regular season game. So there was discounted biscuits for people in the area. It was a good game for us. We started off pretty quickly in this one. Justin Jackson had 5 threes in the first half. Towards the end of the half, we get a little bit sloppy, gave up a few threes, only had a 9-point lead at half. Yeah, we came out right away again in the second half. Strong start, got them in some foul trouble, got them frustrated. They picked up 3 tees in less than a minute. There was a player said something, got a technical. Shortly after that, another player must have said something, got another technical. And then King Rice, obviously said something, kind of went off the ref, got a third technical in less than a minute of play. It was like a couple minutes of real life time, but in less than, there's like 55 seconds of play, 3 technicals for them. It helped us pull it away. We stretched it out, won pretty easily. Like I said, good games from Justin Jackson. Kenny Meeks, Isaiah Hicks both played pretty well in this one. Theo Pinson was in full uniform, did not play. Obviously, as we're still talking about when he'll return. But yeah, Justin Jackson finished with 28 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. Kenny Meeks, another double-double, 17 points, 12 rebounds. Isaiah, 15 points, 9 rebounds, so rebound off a double-double. Joel Berry, just 6 points in this game, and I believe it was all the free throws from the technicals. He was 0 for 4 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3, but 6 for 6 from the free throw line. I'm pretty sure he took all the technical free throws, and that's where he got them. And then Kenny Williams, 7 points for us off the bench. Again, Tony Bradley, 10 points, 7 rebounds. And yeah, this is our last regular season game. King Rice, after the game, went off a little bit. There was something when he was shaking hands with Roy, he must have been talking about, but then in the post game, he kind of broke down, talked about how much Carolina means to him, how much Roy means to him, how lucky North Carolina is to have Roy. Very heartfelt, kind of awesome post-game press conference. If you haven't watched it, I would suggest going to watch it, and hopefully it reminds you kind of how lucky we are to have Roy, and that was kind of his purpose. But then he also kind of threw in there that cheering for biscuits should never be the loudest part of the game. A win should always be more important than getting biscuits. He didn't like the crowd was the loudest when it was cheering for the walk-ons to score, get over 100. But it had been over 2 years since we'd had it, since we've done it. But we won 102-74. Finally got biscuits, and so I guess that brings us to what do we watch now? It's being suggested maybe Joel Berry free throws. Like I said, he was 6 for 6 in this game. But he didn't draw any fouls to get to the line. It wasn't him going to the basket. And then I believe in the first 2 ACC games, he shot 0 free throws in both of them. I'll double check here just to make sure. No free throws in the Georgia Tech game and no free throws. So he had 6 technical free throws against Monmouth. Didn't earn any of those, I guess you'd say. And then 0 since. Going back to UNI. If I can get back to those stats real quick, but otherwise, what else should we kind of watch? Been kind of watching because we've mentioned if anybody's going to break the 3-point record or for 3-pointers in a game. Like I said, Justin Jackson had 5 at halftime. I think he ended up with 6 overall. So yeah, no free throws for Joel Berry in the UNI game as well. So I'm going to even go back another game here to Kentucky. I bet he drew some fouls and got some free throws in the Kentucky game, if I had to guess. And of course, they're not going to pull up, so I'll have to double check that. But if it's not Joel Berry free throws, what should we be watching here on the podcast? What should the next watch be? Please comment below or hit me up on Twitter, email, anywhere else. Let me know what you think we should watch or be watching here on the podcast. Obviously, Theo's return we're going to be watching here. Like I said, he was in full uniform against Monmouth. After Monmouth, we went to Georgia Tech on New Year's Eve and completely dropped an egg. And it's been asked is this the worst loss in the Roy Williams era for North Carolina? Or is like this the worst team that we've lost to? It was incredible. I mean, we lost 63-75, like 12 points, double figures, to like the worst or second worst, or at least projected team in the ACC. I mean, they're horrible. They just lost to Duke last night by like 50 or something. It's just crazy. I don't even know what to say. Justin Jackson had 16 points, shot 6 for 17 overall, was 0 for 5 from the three-point line. Nate Britt had 13 points, was 3 for 4 from the three-point line. Only person that really played above what they should. They said Joel Berry and Roy Williams, for that matter, had IVs and were kind of sick for this game. But I mean, this is Georgia Tech. There's just no reason for it. Isaiah Hicks, 4 points, 4 rebounds. Oh no, sorry, 9 points, 4 rebounds. Shot 4 for 7. Like I said, Justin Jackson shot 6 for 17. Kennedy Meeks, 2 for 6. Like, he only attempted 6 stinking shots. He had 7 points. Joel Berry, 8 points. Was 3 for 13 overall, 2 for 9. From the three-point line, Kenny Williams had 4 points. Like I said, Nate Britt had 13 points. Did have 5 steals. He did kind of his part. Tony Bradley, who had been all productive, 0 points, just shot twice and missed them both, and only 2 rebounds as well. And really what it is, they sat in that zone, and we just never attacked. We just settled for outside shots. We shot 5 for 26 from the three-point line, 19%, 26 three-pointers. They shot 11 three-pointers, and they just sat in that zone, and we let them. We never attacked. We just kept shooting jump shots. Even like Isaiah Kennedy, they weren't attacking the basket. They weren't attacking the offensive boards. Let's see, offensive rebounds. We still had 19 offensive rebounds. That's not bad, but it just, I don't know. We were never aggressive. It was like they were all, somebody said it like, oh, they're thinking about what the New Year's Eve party is like. It was an early tip. It's tipped at noon Eastern. And then it's like they were thinking, let's get back to Chapel Hill. Let's have a good, New Year's Eve. Let's get to a party, whatever. There was just no energy. We never attacked. We just settled for jump shots, and we just expected to win. And to me, it may be. I don't know. I haven't gone through to really question or look through all the losses or bad losses during the Roy Williams, North Carolina era, but has to be one of the worst, if not the worst loss, or at least loss to the worst team that Roy Williams has ever coached. I mean, it's just pathetic. And for that reason, we're not going to talk about it anymore. We bounced back January 3rd. So 4 days later, we come back and play Clemson at Clemson. Start off pretty bad, a lot of turnovers. I guess that's one thing I will look at here before I close off the Georgia Tech stats. We had 20 turnovers against Georgia Tech, and that was another thing. We started off just horrible as far as turnovers. We ended up with 18 turnovers, but I bet most of those came in the first half. I bet over half of those, 10 to 12 of those probably came in the first half. We just started off really poorly again, turned the ball over, sloppy with it. Finally kind of found our groove, worked our way back. Joel Berry ended up with 7 threes, a good bounce back game for him. He ended up with a career high, probably in minutes as well, 41 minutes, but he had 31 points, 5 rebounds, shot 7 for 10 from 3, really carried us throughout a lot of this game before Kenny Williams actually kind of sealed it for us late in the game. Justin Jackson had a chance in regulation to hit a free throw, hit us up by 4. He missed the front end of 1-1. They came down, nailed the 3, tied it up. We had a pretty poor possession after that, went to overtime, and then Kenny Williams actually hit a couple of huge free throws to really seal it, and then he had a couple layups at the end. And then maybe the most interesting part was Brad Brunell getting in Roy's face in the handshake line, really going at him. And at first people were kind of speculating it's because of the Kenny Williams layup late in the game, but they were still fouling. So if we're going to still foul and try to extend the game, like, we have every right to make that layup. So I don't think there's any way it could have been that. I think it had to have been, and what the rumors are, I guess, is that Kenny Meeks was trash talking the Clemson bench and kept saying stuff. I know some people were saying he was telling them roll tide because obviously Clemson football team plays Alabama here next Monday in the championship game. Who knows what he was saying, but it sounds like that's what it was. Roy or Brad wouldn't talk about it at the post-game press conference. They both kind of said that's between me and the other guy. We'll deal with it how we see fit. But Kennedy Meeks had a decent game. Had 16 rebounds, 14 points. He had 10 offensive rebounds. But like Roy said in the post-game press conference, a lot of those offensive rebounds were his misses. Like he was, I don't know, he's so frustrating. I know I talked about this on the podcast last year so much. I don't want to get too worked up over it, but he just has no lift. He just pump fake, and he throws something up. He tips it. He's tipping it around, rebound, tries to go back up, and I don't know. He's one of the definitely here. This is a title for you. Probably the most frustrating, productive player to watch. Like obviously, there's people worse than Kennedy Meeks. He wouldn't have got a scholarship, wouldn't be starting all that stuff if he wasn't decent at basketball. But he can be so productive. Like here, he's got like 12 double-doubles on the season or something like that. So he's productive. He gets buckets, he gets rebounds, whatever. But so frustrating to watch. Like I don't know. I can't hardly even take it. But we also had Justin Jackson with 18 points. Yeah, there was one stat that said Joel Berry had scored 19 out of 23 North Carolina points in one stretch, and Justin Jackson was the second leading point. And that was like in, 3 minutes or something crazy like that. Justin Jackson, our second leading scorer in the game, only had 18. So very good game for Joel Berry. Kenny Meeks, like I said, 14 points, 6 rebounds. Kenny Williams, 11 points. Isaiah Hicks, 8.7 rebounds. He's got to get going. Somebody's got to light a fire under him. He's got to stay out of foul trouble. And that, I guess maybe that's another watch we have is the Isaiah Hicks foul watch, because early in the season he was doing pretty good at staying out of foul trouble. Now it's a real thing. He's always in foul trouble. It's going to follow him now the rest of this season. So obviously his career, and I don't know, he's got to do something about it. And he's also just got to find a way to be as aggressive as he can be without fouling, especially offensively. Like, okay, you pick up a couple of silly fouls and you lose some minutes, and so of course you lose points that way. But you got to stay off. You got to stay aggressive on the offensive end. He's not. I don't think he's going for rebounds as hard as he has or can. He's not attacking the rim and attacking the bucket with the ball as much as he should. There's just a lot there that he's got to get better at. So yeah, that's all the games that we played. That's a lot, I know, but that's not all that happened either. I did want to hit on real quickly before I wrap this thing up. The Greyson Allen incident and suspension, as well as the Coach K news. So Greyson Allen trips an Elon player, very obviously. And again, this is old time. Everybody's seen it. Everybody's talked about it on Twitter and stuff, so I don't want to talk about too much. But then on top of that, he gets a technical for it, and he goes irate on the bench, like just, I don't know, lost his mind on the bench. Like, how could he get that? Or who knows what was going through his mind when he went that, but just went crazy. Coach K still puts him back into the game after that. Like, I don't know what he's thinking, but like, your player gets a technical, so obviously the ref saw that he tripped somebody, and that's not the first, not the second, the third time it's happened in one calendar year. But yet it's okay to send him back in the game. So goes back in, and in the press conference, Coach K is like, oh, it's, we'll take care of it internally, blah, 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 pretty much saying not a big deal. Next day they came back and say, okay, Greyson Allen is suspended indefinitely. So in other words, we don't know how many games, we don't know how long, just forever right now, indefinitely. He's got a lot to work on. He's got all this, blah, 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 all this crap. And so people are speculating, oh, he couldn't possibly bring him back after one game, could he? It's got to be at least 3 games. Maybe it'll be 5 games. Everybody's trying to guess how long indefinitely means to Duke and to Coach K. Then a couple days later, comes out that Coach K is going to have back surgery, will miss about a month. And that kind of takes over all the news. Everybody stops talking about Greyson Allen. And what happens? Greyson Allen comes back after 1 game. Of course, that game that he misses being a loss to Virginia Tech. comes back against Georgia Tech. They blow out Georgia Tech with Greyson Allen there. It's Coach K's last game before his surgery. I mean, first of all, it's his third time. You play him still in that same game, and then you just suspend him for one game after you say indefinitely. Like, why just call it a one-game suspension? Why not call it a slap on the wrist? Like, Coach K gets away with whatever he wants. Has he earned some of that? Sure, but I mean, you got to be realistic here. Like, this is, I mean, it's ridiculous. So yeah, Greyson Allen's back. Coach K coached against Georgia Tech. He has surgery tomorrow, Friday, which is January 6th, and then he will be out for a month. So we'll see how Jeff Capel, who is stepping into his place, can coach them for a month and for a lot of, obviously all ACC games in there. How he can incorporate the freshmen, and Jeff Capel is now the kind of head recruiter for Duke. So he's the one that brought in Harry Giles and Jason Tatum, and I don't even remember the guy's name that's doing nothing for them, but Frank Jackson, all those freshmen. It was Capel that kind of went out, promised him all this stuff. So we'll see how Capel, if he gives him the time he promised, and how he incorporates the freshmen in there. And people are saying it's also his training or rehearsal for head coach if he's the lead guy for when Coach K retires. So we'll see how it goes there. Obviously, people are referring back to 1995 when Coach K missed the rest of the season with that bad team, and then gave all the losses to the assistant coach, and then fired the assistant coach because they had a bad season. So Jeff Capel, we'll see how you can do, and good luck with that if you don't do well. Obviously, they have a good team, a lot of talent, so he should be fine. But so much happening with Duke and really the ACC. You talk about Louisville, who's ranked in at least the top 15, started the season 0-2. Virginia, North Carolina, and Duke all started 0-1 as well. Yeah, it's been kind of upside down in the ACC. Boston College beat Syracuse by 15. It was their first conference win in a year or two. A lot going on. It'd be a very interesting season this year in the ACC. It's going to be crazy. Every game is going to be tough. My wife, ever watching the Clemson game, like, man, North Carolina is just going to make every game close this year, aren't they? But the rest of the games this year in the ACC could be really close games and could be tough wins for us, especially on the road. But speaking of that, upcoming games for North Carolina, we have North Carolina State coming in to Chapel Hill this coming Saturday, and I'm going to pull up here time and all that. It is on ESPN. It'll be 8 p.m. Eastern tip on the 7th, Saturday, in Chapel Hill. And I think I'll podcast before the Wake Forest game on Wednesday, but just in case I don't, we play Wake Forest Wednesday, January 11th at 8 p.m. as well. That one on ESPN2, and that's 8 p.m. Eastern tip. That's in Winston-Salem, so we'll see how we can play on the road here, get some of those ACC wins, so we can stay to the top of, obviously, the ACC standings, and then as well stay in the top of, I think we dropped to 14th in the AP poll this past week. So if we want that 1-2 seed in the NCAA tournament, we got to make sure we're picking up these road wins and against teams that we should. NC State coming off a big win against, who'd they beat? Pittsburgh, I think. Dennis Smith Jr., the talented freshman guard they have, had a triple-double. So we'll see how we can contain him. And how well we can, obviously it's a rival game. It's at home. They have a talent. They just have to put it together. So it'll be an interesting game all the way around there. And, then I should podcast, I think, before the Wake Forest game. But otherwise we have Wake Forest, the Fighting Danny Mannings on the 11th there next Wednesday. So I think that's all I got. Before I do go out, again, I want to thank you for listening, for watching. Also, still looking for people to help, anybody that would be willing to help the podcast and help me with social media, with YouTube highlights. I've been slacking there. We also just haven't had a lot of highlights from the games we've had. We missed Bryce as far as highlights go. Seventh Woods is supposed to be the highlight reel, and obviously hasn't been playing well and getting a lot of minutes. So there hasn't been a whole lot of big time highlights anyway. But if anybody'd like to help with social media, with the podcast, with just help me out, let me know. Email, Twitter, any way to contact me is down below in the description here. But thanks for listening. Share this podcast. Let's unite Tar Heel Nation. Until next time, go Heels.